यारो अब तो मान जाओ, अब तो ऑक्सफोर्ड ने भी बोल दिया. विश्वास नहीं हो रहा. रुको एक मिनट.
What's the next number in this sequence? 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. Of course, you're all shouting out 13 and you know the name of this sequence. It's the Fibonacci sequence. You get the next number by adding the two previous numbers together. But I was very surprised to discover when I was writing my book, Blueprints, How Mathematics Shapes Creativity, that these numbers should not be named after Fibonacci because he was not the first to discover them. In fact, the first to discover the importance of these numbers were Indian poets and musicians. So not scientists or mathematicians at all, because these numbers help you to count the number of rhythms you can make out of long and short beats. So if you're a tabla player, you want to show off with all the different rhythms that you can make with a long and a short beat. So these numbers were already discussed by poets and musicians in India and probably should be called the Hemachandra numbers, not the Fibonacci numbers.
So you've just heard Professor Marcus du Sautet from saying the famous Fibonacci pattern should really be called the Hemachandra series. Now, who was this Hemachandra? Hemachandra is a 12th century Jain Muni and a polymath from Gujarat. A philosopher, poet, linguist, honored in his own time as Kalikala Sarvajna, which means the knower of all knowledge of his age. Now, he comes from the vibrant intellectual world of Indian courts and Jain monastic universities, writing in Sanskrit, Prakrit, and actively shaping grammar, logic, poetry, and yes, mathematics. And Hemachandra himself is not an isolated genius out of nowhere. In fact, he is building on the much older Indian tradition of thinking about patterns, rhythms, and numbers. The work done by scholars like Virahanka and Gopala, who were already analyzing how you can arrange short and long beats in Sanskrit poetry and musical meters centuries before. Now, this is crucial because the Fibonacci is actually the visible tip of an incredibly long Indian knowledge system created by the Acharyas, Sanskrit prosodists, musicians, and poets, all of whom were treating rhythm as mathematics and mathematics as rhythm. Now, by the time Leonardo of Pisa writes the Liber Abaci in 1202, Hemachandra has already lived, written, taught about it, and the tradition he comes from has already become centuries old. So when Marcus proposes that we call it the Hemachandra series, what he is actually saying is that instead of acting like the story starts in Europe, let us finally at least acknowledge one of the names of this Indian chain of knowledge. Let us credit the origins. Now, for those of us from these traditions, this is not just a cute trivia fact. This is a moment of quiet pride as the world finally acknowledges names like Acharya Hemachandra, standing on the shoulders of giants like Gopala and many others whose names we're only now beginning to say out aloud.